Hey, welcome to Massive Iron Live. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm here with Robert Chinetsky, the supplement engineer, and we will be on for a couple hours or until we fall asleep. I think Robert's a little sleep deprived this morning, and I'm not doing the best myself, but we're here to answer your questions. Robert, how you doing?
As you mentioned, a little bit sleep deprived. Now we've got a daughter that's turning 3 on Sunday, and most parents would say it's probably because of the kid that you're not sleeping well, and that's actually she sleeps really, really well. Like she sleeps longer than I do. I get an idea in my head, or I see a light, or my brain is just a buzz, or with a flurry of activity, and I can't fall back asleep. So the past couple of mornings, I think the latest I've slept this week has been like 5:15. Outside of that, it's just I wake up and I can't shut my brain down. So then I just go to work or watch Netflix for an hour or two until the halfling wakes up, and I bring her to a daycare/school.
Everybody tuning in, let us know how you're doing, where you're from, if your gyms are open, what's going on. Give a shout out for your city. We'd love to hear who you are. Man, Robert, I'll tell you, like, my life is 24 hours a day, lifting. Like, I can't escape lifting questions, and that's a blessing. But
Yeah.
sometimes I wake up at like 3 in the morning, and I have this obsession with alien life. So I'm always processing, like, how would we best communicate? How would we best see the universe? That's where my mind goes at like 4 a.m. So that's the crazy stuff.
Have you stumbled upon any ways to elicit the communications necessary to touch extraterrestrial life?
No, not really. The technology required to communicate would be far beyond what we would ever imagine. So let's see what we got this morning. We got DL chiming in. Are you vegan yet? Not yet, DL, not yet. But you can tune in every week. We appreciate you tuning in and joining us, and we will not be vegan unless all of the cows and chickens die.
No, I eat copious amounts of vegetables each day. I eat probably close to 3 pounds of vegetables every day. Does that qualify me as, plant-centric eating?
Yeah, I would say I'm about as plant strong as you get. If people would see how many vegetables and fruits I eat, they'd probably be pretty amazed. Ben on Adventure Friday crew, what's going on, Big Ben? We got Would You List from Scotland. Gym's shut forever. Would You List? I want to move to Scotland. We talk about it every day. We look at properties and we want to move there 6 months out of the year, and that's not helping. I could move my home gym equipment to Scotland, but it's probably cheaper to buy it there.
That's where you got to go for like the Highland game stuff. When you go to Scotland, Steve, you got to start wearing a kilt and do a caber toss and all that stuff. I mean, you got to just lift rocks out there. You can't bring gym equipment. That's foreboding.
Yeah, just chasing sheep and flipping rocks. Like
Would you list? Since you're a Scot, what are some of your favorite scotches? Which ones? So I'm a bourbon man, but I'd like to dabble in scotch. So which ones are not too peaty for me?
So just before we dive in, guys, we will be here for about 2 hours. Post up your questions. Nothing is off limits. Diet, nutrition, supplementation, workout stuff. Just a note, if we do not get to your question, please understand if we don't see your question or read your question, it's not us, it's YouTube. Every single week I get people emailing me or complaining via DM that I'm missing their question. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm sorry. This is the way YouTube is. So if we miss your question, post it up again today. Before I get into the fray, Robert is a supplement engineer. If there is any expert in the supplement industry, Robert is one of them. You can find his podcast, his YouTube, his Instagram, his website at The Supplement Engineer. Please check out his podcast. It is one of the best in the industry, and that's not an understatement. Let's see, we got Frank Pleto. How's it going, Frank? Scott McErlean. Gyms in Scotland still shut. We're looking at late July. Needless, but I don't make the rules. Unfortunately, people were actually trying to warn me, don't move to Scotland because of the politics. I'm like, have you seen the United States lately? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, even down to the city level, man, it's absurd the massive overreaches that government has taken in the past 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, you have politicians, and I don't want to get into politics, but you have politicians going crazy with COVID. On the other hand, who's protecting the inner cities? I mean, protesting, great. No one's against protesting, but some of the stuff going on in inner cities, I don't want to go near them. So,
Yeah.
Buffalo, New York, gyms are not open here yet. It's like a third world country in Buffalo. What's going on? It's crazy to me that so many gyms are not open. Slim says build a home gym. It's probably hard in Scotland, even if you probably have to drive a couple hours just to find some good gym equipment.
Yep.
Let's see. Harud, hey guys, gyms in Montreal opening on Monday. That is good reason to celebrate. Father's Day weekend coming up, guys. Imagine you guys will be doing some whiskey, some bourbon, some cigars, some good stuff. So if you got anything on tap, special, let us know so we can enjoy the cigar or alcohol porn. Robert Scott says try the Scapa whiskey.
Okay. I'll give that a look-see at our local retail supplier and see if I can find Scapa.
What do we got here? Seawick 314. I'm just working out from home now. Bowflex dumbbells up to 90 pounds. I'm glad you have dumbbells up to 90 pounds. And body weight exercises with a stationary bike. I'm trying to lose weight. Do you think that is enough? Seawick, honestly, you don't need any Bowflex or dumbbells to lose weight. All you need is a calorie deficit and consistency with your diet. Lifting is a long-term investment, for body composition. It'll help your metabolism over the long run, help it. It's not a miracle. But all you really need is a hiking trail and a calorie deficit. Robert, any thoughts?
Great choice on the Bowflex Selectex. I mean, that's of the two kind of home dumbbell sets that are, keep things kind of compact that you can choose between the Power Blocks and the Selectex. I've got a set of the Power Block that go up to 90 pounds. The Selectex, they're okay. I like their handles a little bit better than the Power Blocks, but the rotating dial makes it kind of funky to line them up and do a quick change. I guess you just need to get more proficient at it. But yeah, absolutely. 90-pound dumbbells and body weight with a bike, that's you got everything there to make gains for a long time. And like Steve said, it's weight loss is about calories in, calories out. The resistance training is there to provide the stimulus for your body to hold on to that lean mass while you're in the midst of a caloric deficit.
I will say this, Seawick, when it comes to dumbbells, I would almost in a gun to my head, I'd almost rather have dumbbells and body weight exercises than a barbell and body weight exercises, because I feel like you have more options with dumbbells. I feel like when you're training at home, if you don't have a spot or dumbbells, are more forgiving. You can drop the weight on a dumbbell bench press, that sort of thing. But gun to head, if somebody said, hey man, you only get a barbell or dumbbell and body weight exercises, I would probably do dumbbells. And 90s are a really good place to be, because a really good amount of weight to have, because you can get up to 90s on bench for like 20s. And if you can do those for 3 or 4 sets, that's all the weight you'll ever need.
Yeah, if you can do Bulgarians for sets of 10 holding those 90s, I mean, shit, you'll be pretty strong.
Yeah, be careful saying Bulgarians, because I just twitched a little bit. That reminds me of the Athlean X and Greg Doucette.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I think Athlean X can do Bulgarians with 90s. So that just reminded me of that. So, all right, what do we got? Woodulus. That's a word that I don't want to pronounce. Robert?
Buna Habane.
Buna Habane. 12-year-old.
But you got to sound like a drunk Scot when you're saying it, so I'm sure it's probably like Marwarin or something like that. So I have no idea how to say that.
No, I've never heard of that. Unfortunately, when we went to Scotland, we had the goal of running 100K in 10 days, and we didn't realize that Scotland was so dramatic with the elevation changes, like everywhere. So it made it hard to get 100K. But anyway, we spent so much time trying to find trails to run on that we didn't drink any scotch. So I'm sad to say.
Yeah.
if you move to Scotland, plan to row a boat over to Norway. If I move to Scotland, I'm probably going to see the entire, I'm going to see every country in Europe and hike every mile. So you can guarantee that. Been on adventures with the entry into smartassery. Robert, is creatine safe? LOL.
Yep, by the LOL demarcation, then yeah, Ben's pretty good that he knows that creatine is safe, provided you do not have any kind of pre-existing kidney issues, as we've touched on before. Yeah, you're good.
I got to tell you, Robert, sometimes I wake up and I hope that we'll find a new supplement that is on par with creatine, so we'll have something else to talk about.
Yeah, there's one of the podcasts I listen to is the Stronger by Science podcast, which if people want to learn about some like lifting stuff or get really into like the research side of like strength training and some of the supplementation things that go along with that, that's a really top quality podcast. But they always talk about their scale of judging a new supplement when it bursts on the scene is from 0 to creatine. So like creatine is the benchmark for everything else is like woefully below that, except maybe you could say like caffeine.
Yeah, speaking of caffeine, we are hyper caffeinated. If you can see that, we're ready to go. Post up your questions, guys. Post them up now. No stupid questions. Honestly, post them up. Diet, training, nutrition, supplementation, off topic. I think we've addressed Star Wars versus aliens, the superheroes, communicating with extraterrestrial life. I don't think we've dove into porn yet. So if you have any porn questions, please feel free to open that door. I did have 2 inquiries this week. Somebody on Instagram asked if I would get on Skype and pose for cash. I turned that offer down. And then somebody got mad at me because my shirts are too baggy in videos. So I think I need to strip. It's funny when you're a power lifter, if you take your shirt off, the few videos I've taken my shirt off, people get angry. Like I get these gay comments like gay hair. What are you doing? Put your shirt back on. But then, you look at like Greg Doucette and Athlete X who walk around with their shirt off and like everybody flocks to them like they were the Pied Piper just because they're,
Yeah.
So.
Steve, you touched on sci-fi stuff a second ago. I wanted to ask you, were you a Trekkie? Did you like Star Trek at all? If so, did you like the old movies, the old TV shows, or did you like that newer trilogy they did with Chris Pine and when they kind of revamped and had that alternate timeline?
I was a big fan of the original, because back in the day, when we had 3 channels, literally, you would have things like the Twilight Zone and Star Trek, and that was old school monster movies, even stuff like Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Yeah. Back then, you'd look for it. I was a big fan of that. The new Star Trek was okay with me, with Picard and all that. I didn't mind it. I didn't find it. I wasn't as fascinated with it as I was the original Star Trek. I believe was it Babylon 5 or what was the 5-year series or the 5-season series? I forget. I liked that one, but that was kind of an offshoot. I don't know. How about you?
No, I've seen a few of the original series, like the William Shatner one. I didn't watch much of Next Generation. I mean, I was a kid when that came on. I remember my dad watching it a lot. I've seen a few of the Star Trek movies. And I like the newer trilogy that they did, kind of where they made that alternate universe timeline thing. It was a good blend of sci-fi and action. I think they did justice to kind of the original characters in the original Star Trek series while injecting a little bit some updates to it overall.
Yeah, overall, I would say I'm mostly my biggest fascination is with the alien environment, the alien movies. But, with Prometheus, the alien movies were always gritty and, gray and drab and green and just gritty and warlike and vast, Right. And then Prometheus destroyed it. It was like, it was like the equivalent of a COVID-19 where everything was scrubbed and squared away. And, so.
I had not seen that one. I've seen all the other aliens, I believe. I never saw Prometheus.
As a standalone sci-fi film, it's pretty good, but it doesn't really fit the Alien,
Universe.
not for me. All right, Frank Polito. Now that gyms are closed with limited weight, how would recommend training? Frank, over on my website, Super Living Today, which is right above my fat finger here. If you go to the workouts, there is a free workout PDF. I put together some home workouts, and you can check that out. That's absolutely free. All you got to do is drop in your email so you can get the PDF download, and no cost. If you want a custom workout, I provide that service as well. Robert also provides a supplement assessment service over on my website, which is, again, above my head. And if you want to save money on your supplements, yep, right over there. I can't figure it out like Alan. Alan's always like, click the subscriber button.
Yeah.
So yeah, Robert provides a supplement assessment service over at my website right there. So yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Slim, COVID is getting all burned up, courtesy of Antifa. I just saw, something funny on a screenshot of Fox News. I don't really watch news, but it said that protesting is okay. Protesting is okay, but you should continue to close your businesses down. But you can go out and protest as long as you're in a mask. So I don't know. It's all way confusing. We need a rule book for 2020.
Yeah, and Beverly Hills has now banned protests, so that's convenient too. Where all the Hollywood celebrities live, that's awfully convenient.
Yeah, that was probably the most hilarious story of the week. Beverly Hills, like they're funneling, millions of dollars, the celebrities are into bailing out the protesters, but then they say, just don't protest here if you don't mind. Right. All right, Lewis Hoodie. Hello, guys. Any tips for posterior delts? It's the only muscle I can't develop properly. Robert, I'm going to let you start before I beat my drum.
Pulling exercises, definitely. So you can do like wide grip seated cable rows if you have access to a gym. If you're not, use some resistance bands. And so instead of doing like pulling down to your sides with a neutral grip or an underhand grip, get your arms out to the sides and pull back that way. That'll get the rear delts involved. Athlete X's always face pulls will help develop the rear delts. Bent over rear delt flies, basically any other back move. Pull-ups are going to recruit the rear delts to a certain degree. Inverted rows will do that. Dumbbell rows will do that. But if you're looking for something that will really like zone in on those, look for rear delt flies, face pulls, and those high seated cable rows where you're almost pulling your arms out to the side and like you're pulling almost at like nipple level.
Yeah, one thing. I mean, I'm a fan of face pulls and I'm a fan of bent over dumbbell rows and all that kind of stuff. But I think lost in the equation, we get the foundation that most people have weak rowing, weak rows, weak dumbbell rows, weak barbell rows. The back is one of the strongest muscle groups in the human body and capable of a lot. And so many guys that are obsessed. When guys come to me with rear delt questions, the first thing I ask is let's talk about your baseline. How strong are your rows? And you have to focus on your rows as a cornerstone. Because if you consider like the face pull, I don't know if you can see it here. You consider the face pull movement. Where are we? You're going like this, right? You're moving the elbow back. Well, a row isn't too far off that path. And you need to do your rear delt work. You need to do your isolation work, but you also need to get your rows strong. So that's my soapbox. Robert, here we go. Had this one last week. How often should I cycle caffeine?
I mean, if you want to go with like the research backed answer, there really is no reason to have to cycle caffeine. Really, it kind of boils down to your personal usage and tolerance and habituation and how addicted to it are you. I mean, do you need upwards of like 900 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day just to feel like a human being? In that instance, yeah, you might want to consider cycling caffeine. But if you're only having like 1 cup of coffee a day or like a scoop of a pre-workout that only has caffeine in it, I don't really see the need to cycle caffeine. Now, if you're using it and you're addicted to it, and every hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, you need to like re-up and have another bump of caffeine, have another energy drink, coffee, tea, something like that, or a no-dose tab or something like that. Then you might want to invest into cycling off caffeine and lowering your intake. At a minimum, if you do have a super high intake of it, maybe 4 to 6 weeks if you really want to get down to like base levels again. So, but I wouldn't recommend going cold turkey. If you are at such a high dose of caffeine intake, like you're at that 800, 900, 1,000 milligram intake, don't drop down to no caffeine. That's going to be a miserable experience for 95% of the population. Start by like slowly tapering it down over a couple of weeks. So if you're used to having like 3 cups of coffee a day, cycle down to like 2 cups of coffee, then 1 cup of coffee, then maybe like decaf coffee, and then you can go without it, and then give that a couple of weeks of no caffeine, and then you can kind of ramp back up again if you want to. But if your caffeine intake is 400 to 500 a day or less, I don't really see a need to cycle it, and there's not really any conclusive or convincing evidence showing that you need to cycle off caffeine.
Yeah, we touched on this a little bit last week, but some of us that come off caffeine struggle a lot more than others. Like for me, if I don't slowly have my dose, I get really, really bad headaches, and whereas some people don't. So, I've tried to cycle off caffeine, and invariably, somewhere along the line, I have one of those days where I wake up and I'm like, my ass is kicked. And the first thing you think about mentally is caffeine, coffee, and energy drink. There's there's so many psychological ties to caffeine that I find that very, very interesting. Almost like a crutch. But I will say that in periods of time where I've been relying heavily on caffeine, sometimes when I get off of caffeine, I actually feel better when I wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really say why that is. I just feel a little bit less foggy, a little bit less, crazy in the morning.
Yeah, well, it's probably due to the way caffeine works. So what caffeine resembles the molecular structure of adenosine. And so adenosine is a neurotransmitter in the body that, at least in the brain, induces fatigue. So during the day, it builds up extracellularly, and then at night, it binds to those receptors, and that's what makes you tired. Well, what caffeine does, it's going to block the adenosine molecule from binding to its receptor, since it's got a molecular structure similar to adenosine. So it binds to that receptor, and what happens is that adenosine just keeps building up and building up and building up until when the caffeine finally gets out of your system. If you're getting really addicted to caffeine, it's like the floodgates open and you're just awash in adenosine. So after you start cycling off caffeine and you stop using it, you stop having that huge buildup of adenosine. So that may help to even you out a little bit more and kind of recalibrate you to where you feel a little bit more normal once you've kind of broken completely away from caffeine.
That makes sense a lot. Hey, what do we got here? Philo68. Bourbon versus Scotch. That's a very, very good question. Bourbon, single malt, quality all day. By law, it's protected in the best spirit in the world. I am right here close to Kentucky. And a lot of the Kentucky bourbons, I'm going to say I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the big staples. We have one of the best bourbon bars in the country, the Prohibition Bar in Covington, Kentucky, and I'm friends with the gentleman. Tried a lot of bourbons. One of my favorites, I'm a big fan of whiskeys and bourbons. Just diving into the Scotch world myself, so I can't really give a good comparison. But what do you prefer, Robert, when it comes to whiskey, bourbon, and Scotch?
Bourbon, hands down. My entry into the whiskey, bourbon, dark firewater category was Jack Daniels. So my dad never really drank. In college he did, but after college there was he stopped just about, and he may have, I remember him having like maybe one beer at like pool parties we'd have, but outside of that he never drank a whole lot. And so his younger brother, my uncle, loves Jack Daniels, and so we would go out on his pontoon boat and he would always have a handle of Jack, or Gentleman Jack would be like the Christmas present we gave him. And so I drank that, and eventually graduated up into liking bourbons maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I was never a big drinker. In college, I did like the cheap beer for beer pong and all of that stuff. And I kind of went through a craft beer phase, 2010, 2011, but it's only within like the last 3 years or so that I've really started to get more serious about bourbon and Scotch tasting and all of that. But for me, it's bourbon all day long.
I will say, for anybody that dives into that world, for me, like being so close to Kentucky, there's a lot of crap bourbons, so
Yeah.
I found when I dove into that world that, there's a big wide variety of quality, and you can taste the difference. I mean, some of the cheap Kentucky stuff is like drinking, the cheap piss beer, that you drink at college.
Oh yeah.
And you can taste the difference. It's not good on the palate, and it's kind of off-putting, and you don't really want to sip it. But you go to the other end of the spectrum, and it's a whole different world. Diving into having been on that side of bourbon, when I got into Scotch, I started looking for reputable Scotches instead of just getting the cheapest crap.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really tell right now. I can't really tell as much nuance between Scotches as I can between bourbons, but I'm still getting there.
Yeah, it's the peatiness of Scotch that I don't find appealing. If you do a little splash of water with it, I can handle it a little bit more that way, but I can't do most Scotches just raw.
I don't mind either, as long as I got a good cigar and no one blowing up my DM box. All right, what do we got here? Ben Out Adventures, happy Father's Day weekend to all the dads out there. I hope this doesn't offend anyone. Oh, wait, we're not on Facebook. You're safe, Ben. This is a safe space. This is an autonomous zone for safe people of everything. So you can say whatever you want here, and you're safe. Absolutely 100% safe. Wait, I don't think Chaz is Chaz anymore, because they realize being autonomous is too difficult. So I believe they're Chop now. Chop. We're autonomous. Can you bring us some phone chargers, please? Best training split: full body, upper, lower, or bro? Go right ahead. I got to get my dog to stop doing what you're doing. Hey,
Carlos, it's going to be, there really is no best training split. It's going to be the one that motivates you to get in the gym and do things most consistently and most regularly with your training. The one that excites you to get in the gym and get after the weights each week. It doesn't matter if it's upper, lower, full body. At the end of 20, 30, 40 years of training, it's all going to even out in the long run. Just find a program that, jives with your availability and your desire to train. So if you don't want to be in the gym 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, don't pick like a twice a day training routine, push, pull, leg split. If you only have 3 days, or if your recovery sucks because you're getting older, or you have a really high stress job and you've got a lot of obligations in your life, go with a 3-day full body split, or, do an upper lower ABA kind of thing, where you're doing upper Monday, lower Wednesday, upper Friday, and then the next week it would be lower, upper, lower. So there really is no best, especially just for average guys like us that just really enjoy lifting. It's about finding a program that excites you, that motivates you, that gets you to want to be in the gym more often than not.
Yeah, I've taken my share of beatings and poundings over the years for the things that I say, but if you're one of these guys that only looks at one variable when it comes to full body training, and you just pound the frequency drum and you miss the bigger picture,
oh yeah,
you're not doing yourself. You're not. You're closed-minded. You need to open your mind a little bit and understand that it's very complex. That there's variables that can't be quantified by science, and when we focus on one variable, there's positives and negatives to everything. There's also, older individuals might not work best with frequency training. Frequency training isn't very forgiving when it comes, you can't really fit in junk volume into frequency training, but that means you have to focus more on compound movements, and that can be harder for older trainees. Full body can be harder when you get strong, because you have so many damn warm-up sets that it can take forever. And really the bottom line is that if you have a good exercise selection, you have a reasonable amount of volume, and you don't have a lot of junk volume, and you have progressive overload over the span of 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to all shake out. It's going to all, it doesn't matter, if your bike has 2 wheels or 3, you're still going to go from New York to Philadelphia, and you're going to get there. So don't get caught up in this stuff. We get caught up in all these things. And people get far more caught up in this debate than they do their own strength levels and their own programming. So you can give me any program and I can fix it up and get you on track to maximize it. But you know what, Robert, and this is the God's honest truth, if I give somebody a program that's going to put them on the path from A to B, 95% of the people aren't going to do it. They're just going to, they're going to want something magical or something sexier, or they'll stop going to the gym, etc.
Right.
All right, Seawick, you guys are awesome. Thank you, Seawick. I appreciate it. Thanks for answering my question. I hope you guys have a great weekend. You too as well. All right, would you list from Scotland? Another entry called Boonabin.
I think that's the pronunciation for the that really complicated Bahhhabuibn.
Oh yeah, gotcha. I thought we had another Scotch. I was getting excited here for a moment. Boonabin actually sounds very Australian to me. That's something I would expect an Australian to say. John, Mississippi here. Been back in the gym for over a month now. They were closed for 3 months. Glad to see you back. And all right, this is completely out of my wheelhouse right here, Robert. One Punch Man versus Fist of the North Star.
No clue. I mean, I'm wondering if this is like an old kung fu action movie. I've seen my fair share, but I don't know either of those.
No, I actually have a One Punch Man shirt because I like the shirt. But I'm not going to lie, I have no idea who he is. I actually saw somebody on my social media with a One Punch Man shirt. I'm like, that shirt looks awesome. And I had no idea it was a thing. So we're probably going to take a beating here, Robert. Seawick, I purchased your Massive Iron book and will be using one of your workouts. Thank you, Seawick. I appreciate it. Anybody that wants to check out Massive Iron can head over to my website, which is right above my head. All right.
Okay, One Punch Man is it looks like a Japanese anime or manga.
Extremely popular from what I can tell. Let you guys know we'll stay on as long as you have questions, so keep them rolling. Diet, training, nutrition, supplementation, off topic, we really don't care. It's Friday. Just entertain us. Say something humorous or funny, or at least try.
Yeah.
Jim Bro. Robert, what's your daily process for making sure you take all of your supplements?
I'm a creature of habit, so it's kind of a routine and a regimen that's evolved as I've just been. I'm a creature of habit, so I do the same thing just about every damn day. So I wake up, I'll go get dressed, get the halfling dressed, take her to daycare, come home, Santa and I will go on a walk for an hour or so. I don't take any supplements really until I have my scoop of nootropic or pre-workout, which is what's in here. And the time of day that I take that is anywhere between 10 and 12:30, depending on what time Sandy and I are going to train. So her and I'll go train after Steve and I hop off of this call. And plus I, slept maybe 4 hours last night. So I need a little extra caffeine bump to get me going. Make sure I speak coherently to all of you fine people watching this. After that, I usually go into my workouts fasted. So I'll have some kind of intra-workout carb powder with some amino acids. Now I have the luxury of having some of these products sent to me for testing, and other companies that I work with just send me stuff. If I didn't have those, would I pay for them? Probably not. I would probably just use a Whole Foods meal before training. But since I've got them here, I'm going to use them just because there's no magic to amino acid supplements or intra-workout carbs, especially if you're not competing twice a day or involved in like field sports or like an all day long soccer tournament or CrossFit event or something like that. After training is when I'll do, if I have time to fix lunch, I'll mix up some amino acids with a scoop of creatine, or I have one of my flavored creatine supplements. I'll do that. And if I don't have time to eat, like today after we get finished training, I'll be recording another podcast. So I'll just have 2 scoops of protein powder, and I'll throw my creatine into that. And then at night, I'll just take my multivitamin and fish oil along with my dinner. And that's about it. There's nothing too fancy about it. I don't do a whole lot of stuff. It's either a pre-workout or a nootropic. There are a few other bulk things that I throw in there on occasion, like rhodiola powder or KSM 66 or some adaptogens. But outside of that, that's about as fancy as I get.
People often ask me and my wife how we manage to fit in everything we do into a day, and we literally have everything down to like the choreography is spot on. Like, I will get up, and I'm always first out of bed, and not to be too graphic, but I'll go sit on the throne, and while I'm sitting on the throne, she's getting our supplements ready. So I have my 2 gummies and my D3 and my K2 and, all my stuff. I get up, that stuff's all ready to go. So people ask us a lot, how we manage to squeeze everything into a day. Like, everything is choreographed. Everything is, strict. We have routines and habits that we do so we don't have to guess or plan or whatever. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys are pretty much the same way.
Absolutely. Yeah, Santa and I are both very, very much creatures of habit. We like structure, we like routine. And so, that's the biggest key for success, is just finding a routine that jives well and one that you enjoy and work it.
Now, Robert, I mentioned this on, Instagram yesterday about excuses and time management. Mm-hmm. I had a client leave this week because he said he doesn't have time to work out. And when one of my clients tells me that stuff, I just let them go. I mean, it's not my point if somebody is at the place where they want to stop services for me to say, you're full of shit,
Right.
Because generally they know they're full of shit. They're just not ready to change. But, regarding making a plan, if you're winging it in life, like, you don't have a plan, you don't have a time to work out, you don't, plan your meals or whatever, you're going to waste a lot of time fucking around and wasting your own time. And that time could be better served, doing something else. Would you agree, Robert?
Absolutely. Yeah. Winging it very rarely works in any aspect of life, be it school, be it your training, your nutrition, job. Winging it very, very rarely works. You have to be adaptable and be willing to roll with the punches to a certain extent, but you also always have to go in with some kind of game plan too.
How many of you out there work in an office environment where somewhere around 10 o'clock, everybody peeks their head out of their little cubicle and they start to try to decide what they're going to have for lunch? And really, from 10 o'clock to like 11:15, all it is a fuck around hour where everybody's trying to figure out what they're going to do for lunch each day.
That was engineering. That was what that was what it was like in the consulting field, or at least the engineering offices I worked in.
Yeah, I mean, it was even like that at Tiger Fitness. I mean, we only had a small group of people, and I sat back in my office, but every single day it was like the same time. What are we going to do for lunch? What are we going to do for lunch? Yep. And that's kind of what, if people don't plan, they're wasting so much time going through that. What are we going to do for lunch? When am I going to get time to work out? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
All right, John, I have the original Star Trek series on VHS. That's pretty impressive.
Awesome.
I won't lie, I have some VHS tapes lying around. When I was a pro wrestler, I have the tape where I lost my belt, where I was supposed to wrestle King Kong Bundy. I'd like to get that, upload that one day to this channel just to prove to people I'm not full of shit. But Robert, you got any VHS lying around?
Here? No. At my parents' house, yeah, we have a shit ton. I'm pretty sure they still have all the VHSs we had from when we were kids. By the time I moved out onto my own, the DVD craze was in full swing. So we still got some DVDs here at the house. And my parents have all the old VHS things and like the Nintendo cartridges and Super Nintendo cartridges and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I remember the TV phases. We had DVDs hit, and then Blu-ray, and then what was the next gen that they pushed for a while? I'm trying to remember. I don't freaking know.
No, and everything's streaming now, more or less.
It never went anywhere. And like, it's kind of funny, when we went from all this high quality, high definition home theater stuff to streaming, which, I got the fastest everything. And still, when the movie gets dark, you can kind of see all the pixels and shit. And
Yep. Yeah, I much prefer having physical media, be it, actual DVDs or a paperback book. I never want to purchase a Kindle or an e-reader. I cannot stand reading things off my laptop. If it's like the study of a new ingredient that's coming out and they've got a bunch of different literature that the company will send me to review, I go and print it all out on our printer. I cannot stand reading stuff like that on a laptop or any kind of a tablet or electronic device. Give me paper.
I'm the same way. I've tried the Kindle. I've had a Kindle. I've tried the digital stuff. I even have a subscription to the Marvel Unlimited where I can go on and look at all the comic books for $9.99 a month. And, looking at it on the computer, just doesn't cut it for me.
Yeah.
But I still keep the subscription because I'm a dumbass. All right, Andre, is 3 to 5 grams of creatine daily enough when over 200 pounds, or should I go higher?
5. I would err on the side of 5 grams. You're a bigger guy, so stick with the 5 grams a day, and yeah, you'll be fine with that. There's no need to go higher. You could, in all safety, but I would just stick at the 5, and you'll be all right.
Thank you, Robert. Galen Burke II, Star Wars was king. I won't lie, when it came out in theaters, I went and saw it probably 2 or 3 times. But I also saw Aliens 2 or 3 times and King Kong in 1976. I will tell you a little personal story if you guys don't mind for a second. It was the 1976 Super Bowl Sunday. I believe 1976, and I might be a year off. But it was Pittsburgh and Los Angeles. But it was also the weekend King Kong came out. Okay? I believe it was the weekend King or Kong came out, but I know King Kong was out of theaters. And I've only thrown one tantrum in my life. I was 9 years old. I was 8. I threw the mother of all tantrums and screamed bloody murder in my room to get my mom to take me to see King Kong on Super Bowl Sunday. And you know what? My mom complied, and she sat through the movie. And I'll for the rest of my life, I've been making it up to her. So
I will agree. I'm gonna caveat Galen's comment there. The original trilogy was king. The prequels were okay. The 7, 8, and 9 that Disney shit all over, I'm not even considering that Star Wars.
Yeah, I won't even lie. The first 3 movies I've watched, I think I've watched the next 3, but I don't even remember them. I mean, that's my level of interest.
Yep.
Bruce Lee from Greece. Bruce Lee from Greece. Hope you guys are doing all right during these crazy times. I'm doing okay. The biggest stress for me, and I'm curious what you think, Robert, is waking up every day and feeling like your country is vastly different from where it was a year ago. And that's not a commentary on the protesting or anything, but things feel really weird right now, and it's a super source of stress for me.
Yeah, I think it's to the point now where just normal conversations just irritate me because it seems like the average person has lost the ability to discern things and think for themselves. They're eating everything up that's being fed to them from news outlets, from social media, from politicians. And nobody's stopping to think, okay, here's what we're actually seeing in the data. This is what's really going on. And everybody's just kind of, and when I say everybody, I'm just saying, I'm making generalizations here, that mass flocks of people are just kind of buying everything hook, line, and sinker and just going along with whatever. Nobody's questioning anything. The news outlets aren't holding anybody accountable as what they should be doing. They're not questioning anything. They're just simply saying, oh, well, the mayor said to do this, so we should all do this. And I'm thinking that's not the purpose of the news outlets. If you're being a real journalist, you're supposed to be digging deeper and finding out what is at the root of all this. But the investigative journalism bit has completely been wiped away. It's non-existent here in Austin, at least.
Yeah, I'm going to say SEO killed journalism. And what do I mean by that?
Yep.
Well, look, we worked in that industry. I worked in an industry where my job was to churn out articles. So there was two things I look for: quality content, and I had to phrase that in some way where you would actually give a shit by the headline.
Right.
The second part, actually giving a shit by the headline. If you do a search for like muscle building tips on Google, there's 5 million articles, literally.
Yeah.
And if you want something to stand out in that sea, it doesn't matter if it's muscle building or COVID-19 headlines. The reality is that you have to flip some switch that gets somebody's attention to get them to click.
Yeah.
So, that's the reality of where we're at, regardless of what you think about the COVID or the lockdowns or any or the protesting or the rioting or any of this stuff going on right now. The reality is that reporters and editors are chained to that. They're absolutely chained to that because it's their income stream. And for better or for worse, if they don't do something to shock you and get you to click, they don't have a job.
Agreed.
That's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. All right. Been on adventures. I just want a Man of Steel 2. The first Man of Steel with Henry Cavill was so underrated. Man, I can't even remember when that came out. I remember enjoying it.
2012, maybe 2013. I liked it. I thought he did a fine job as Superman.
I actually don't mind most superhero movies. I find them generally more entertaining than the average other tripe put out by Hollywood. But
yeah,
I like superheroes, so I'm a little bit biased.
Agreed.
Galen Burke, creatine reaches saturation after 5 grams per month.
Correct, but you still need to keep taking it after that, because eventually there will be a rate of decay and your body will go back to its baseline creatine level. So even after you reach saturation for a month, you'll maintain that saturation for basically a month or so, but then after then it's going to start dwindling. So yeah, once you reach saturation, just keep taking 5 grams a day. It's safe, it's proven effective. It has a bunch of other benefits just aside from muscle building. It's got recovery benefits, cognitive benefits, all that good stuff too.
So, Robert, I'm going to throw an off-topic question your way that's not from them, just between us. Since we were talking about books, and we both discussed how we don't like to read them on Kindle or digitally. Do you ever go – I do this all the time, so this is why I asked. Do you ever just go to a bookstore and wander around and just randomly purchase stuff just to, just on a whim?
Yeah, I mean, we bought a membership to the local Barnes & Noble by us, because that was one of my favorite things to do as a kid, was that we would go to the mall, and this was when Walden Books was still around. Barnes & Noble, I don't think, had invaded, at least Kenner, which is outside of the New Orleans metro area in Louisiana. I don't think Barnes & Noble had invaded yet, so we had Walden Books. And it's like every Saturday or Sunday while my parents would go and walk around the mall, because that was the phase of everybody. There were mall walkers every Saturday morning or Sunday morning.
Right.
I would go in and sit there. Me and my brother did, or if my sister was with us there too. And I would just sit in there and like flip through a comic book or read one of like the Star Wars expanded universe novels that had been written. Or I went through a huge Tom Clancy phase too. I think I read almost all of the Jack Ryan novels up to a certain point. But yeah, I mean, even to this day, we don't have any tablets here at the house. I have a little laptop for work. Sandy has a laptop for her work. We're not giving our 3-year-old a tablet like we see a lot of parents do. We're giving her books. She has probably 30 books, and her birthday is Sunday. We're telling everybody to give her books because we enjoy it. And that's if I'm working on a Sunday afternoon, that's one of the things Sandy does with our daughter, is takes her to the bookstore and they go and read or do story time or play with some of the little things in there. And we'll usually buy something there just to, support them.
Sometimes people laugh at me when I talk about retiring. And sometimes people say if I retired, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. But if I retired, I'd be sitting around with a drink in my hand, a cigar in my hand, and a book.
Absolutely.
I could give a fuck if the world eats itself. That's just kind of how I am. One thing about books, and I'd like to hear if there's any other book nerds out there, is like if I pick out a book. Hold on, I gotta get my dog to shut up. It's licking its ass and very distracting. That's her favorite hobby. With books, like I found, if I pick out 5 books that look good based on ratings,
Mhm.
or if I just go into a bookstore and pick out 5 books, 1 out of the 5 I'll actually end up reading. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's, one of the reviewed ones or that I just picked up randomly. One of them will just randomly bite me in the ass, and it might not be the one I expected. So,
Yeah, it's all good stuff. I almost wish books would kind of make a huge comeback. I understand digitizing certain things, but I'm ready for kind of the pendulum to swing back the other way and us to almost like push back against technology a little bit and go old school with a few certain things.
well, it has happened that way a little bit in the recording industry. Vinyl has made a huge comeback, and
Yeah.
vinyl is alive and well. While I don't think anybody makes cassette tapes anymore.
No.
Andre, gents, if you're looking for an underrated whiskey, give Suntory Whiskey Toki. It's $50 to $60, and probably could be in the 150 range.
Yeah, I think it's a Japanese whiskey, I believe. I know Japanese's whiskey industry has exploded in the past few years. Um, that's pricey. I mean, that's not going to be your everyday bourbon like a Buffalo Trace or a Knob Creek or something like that would be. But yeah, I mean, that might be worth trying for a special occasion.
Yeah, Robert, you have your computer right there. Could you Google Whistle Pig 12 year? I'm
Yeah.
just curious. I'm just curious what it costs down there for you, because that's my more expensive whiskey. I'll have that like once a month because I don't want to drink that too quickly.
The rye, the 12-year rye.
Yeah, 12-year rye.
Total Wine, and that's the big outlet by me, $120 a bottle, or $93 in this one.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Whistle Pig 12 year is something I'll have once a month. That's like my splurge. So if anybody wants a good rye, that is smooth as a baby's ass. It really is. You can drink it, and it's really smooth and really pleasant.
Yeah, the 10-year Whistle Pig is only $72.
Yeah, I've not tried the 10, so I can't vouch for that.
Yeah.
Let's see, what do we got here? Buffalo Sabskis. Opinion on vitamin D, specifically the 3 to 4 day, 50,000 milligram a day the AMA recommends. Robert, any thoughts?
I don't think it's 50,000 milligrams. I think it might be 50,000 IUs.
Right.
If the American Medical Association is recommending that and an MD identifies a severe clinical deficiency in a patient, I'm going to defer to the doctors and the medical authorities on that. I think for an everyday person, like that's just living up north, taking 3,000 to 5,000 IUs a day is probably more than enough. But if you've got some kind of disorder where your body is lacking the ability to synthesize or properly convert vitamin D, you're probably going to need something more along the more intense scales like the 50,000 IU. But again, that's going to be prescribed only under the vision and care of a doctor. You're not going to find that at dose, just on the shelf.
Thank you, Robert. Let's see, Louis Hoodie. Big thanks from France. Thanks for joining in from France. It's always good to hear where you guys are tuning in from. I'm always amazed at the wide variety of the huge amount of diversity that exists in my audience. It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Slim 56. Do you recommend doing shoulder pressing on chest days or back days? I find my military presses are stronger if I do them on back days. This is really kind of a crazy question. I'm not making fun of your question, Slim, but if you have a chest day and you have a back day, I guess my question is, why don't you have a shoulder day? In conventional bro split programming, you're going to have the basic fours are horizontal pressing, like bench pressing and triceps. You can, and then you have back and biceps, or you can change those. You can do back and triceps, chest and biceps. I do that sometimes. And then you have legs, and then you have usually shoulders. But I guess my question for you, Slim, is why aren't you doing a shoulder-specific day? And if not, I would probably consider doing that, because I've been programming for a long, long time. I've never seen anybody put shoulder work into you can put shoulder work on a chest day, but then you have a push-pull leg split. So, Robert, anything to add to this?
No, I mean, you summed it up pretty well. I mean, it makes sense that the presses are stronger on back day because the shoulders are going to be pre-fatigued to a certain degree if you're following any kind of bench press or incline pressing, because the anterior delts are going to be involved, and so are the triceps. So back day, those aren't involved to nearly the degree they are on chest day. That's why you'd be stronger on a military press.
One of the things I don't like, one of my least favorite splits is push-pull legs, and a lot of people like it. But the reason why I don't like it is you're able to maintain a reasonable amount of back volume and balance and leg volume and balance. But then when you get to your pressing work, something's going to take a back seat. Military presses or chest presses. So, I'm thinking out loud here. One thing I've never done right now is you'd almost be better off splitting your shoulder work onto more of a frequency in that type of environment, maybe putting a heavy press on back day or something like that. But I don't know. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah. What we've kind of started doing with our training is that we've got it split out to where Monday is a body weight, more plyometric style leg day. Then Tuesday is back and arms day. So it'll be back. So we'll do pull-ups, we'll do inverted rows, we'll do one arm rows, and then we'll do some rear delt flies with that. And then we'll do an arm superset. Wednesday is either some kind of either we'll go on a super long walk, a hike, or do like an interval cardio thing. Thursday is, it's a push day, but it's an emphasis on shoulders because it's vertical pressing. So we always start off with a shoulder press that day, and then we'll go into, some incline presses or push-ups. And then finish with rear delt flies again, just because you almost can never work the rear delts enough. Arm superset to finish that off again. Friday is heavy leg day, and then Saturday is an upper body weight workout day. So there's no weights on that day. It's pull-ups, it's dips, it is push-ups, but like chest fly push-ups on the suspension trainer, and then inverted rows on the suspension trainer. And that's it. So we've Saturday, I would say, is more of like a chest focused kind of pushing movements, whereas our Thursday push day is more focused on shoulders. There's still some chest work in there, but we've kind of emphasized one aspect of pushing on one day and, save it for the other day.
Slim, I'm just going to end cap this with, one of the issues when you're doing chest and shoulders on the same day, whether it's in the context of an A-B split or a push-pull legs, you have to be willing to do some form of rotation. So in workout A, chest comes first. In workout B, shoulders come first. So if I'm programming a push-pull legs or I'm programming an A-B split that has chest and shoulders on the same day, one workout will start with a bench press variation. The other workout will start with a barbell or dumbbell overhead press variation. So if you are experiencing fatigue on your military presses, it seems to me it's very likely that you're always putting them second fiddle to your bench press. So you might want to change that up.
Yeah.
All right. Nigel, hey, question for the supplement engineer. Trim Fast Keto. Keep seeing ads for it popping up. I'm just going to say this before you jump in, Robert. Anytime somebody comes to me about an ad, the thing I'm going to tell them is ignore the hype and don't buy the product. Because 99.9999% of the time when you see an ad and it's got sexy text, don't buy the product. Robert, any thoughts?
Yeah, I saw this question pop up in the feed, like 10 or 15 minutes ago. So, while we've been answering questions, I've been trying to find the ingredients on this. And so I typed in Trim Fast Keto into Google, and 4,000 websites pop up. You cannot find the ingredients to this anywhere. The ingredient label is just not listed. Go look at the images pop up, type in Trim Fast Keto or ingredients, and then look at the images. You won't find this. What I'm going to assume that it is, I mean, if the ingredient panel is that hard to find for a supplement, it is going to be massively underdosed and is most likely going to be a proprietary blend. If I had to guess what in the hell is in this bottle, since it's not clearly labeled on the website or any of the other 6,000 affiliate sites it's listed on, it's going to be a very small amount of BHB salts, which are exogenous ketones. So when you enter into a ketogenic diet, you ditch carbohydrates, or you significantly reduce them to where you're only consuming around 50 grams of net carbs a day. When you starve your body of glucose and it depletes its glycogen stores, it starts generating, the liver starts pumping out ketones, which can serve as an energy source for the body, and it can generate ATP from that. Exogenous ketones are, bioidentical copies of those ketones that your body can use as a rapid source of energy. So it's like the keto version of a carbohydrate that provides a rapid source of energy. The issue when you take those is that it kind of defeats the purpose of using a ketogenic diet. The purpose of a keto diet is to generate ketones. So if I'm supplementing with ketones, that's going to be preventing the body from, to a certain degree, of producing its own ketones. It doesn't accelerate fat loss. If anything, it's going to make your body stop metabolizing its own fat for ketone production, and it's going to metabolize the stuff you're putting in it, just like as if you ate protein or carbohydrates, it's going to metabolize that first before it relies on its own energy stores. Ignore this. It is a giant scam. It is a waste of money. Do not buy TrimFast Keto or any other keto supplement for that matter. You don't need a supplement on a keto diet unless you need something like fish oil, protein, or like electrolytes. But any kind of exogenous ketone, BHB salt, it's bullshit.
Yeah, exactly right. You don't need a supplement on a keto diet. You need to be in ketosis. And Robert, I have a rule when somebody comes to me, if I can't find the ingredients of a supplement online within 60 minutes or 60 seconds, you should not even consider taking it. Zach, thank you, Zach, for the donation. We sincerely appreciate it. Chris, it's almost midnight here in the Philippines. My question is, what's the max number of sets for each muscle group per week? Chris, I want you to travel back in time to a couple days ago. I just made a video about this called Junk Volume, and I cover that pretty in-depthly. I go over what your weekly volume will look like if you do 12 to 15 sets per major muscle group, etc. If you get into 12 to 15 sets, quality sets per muscle group, you're looking at quite a bit of volume per week just to knock out if you're training 4 days in a row. That can keep you in the gym quite a long time. 9 to 12, and I say 9 to 12 sets, and generally for me it's about 12 for major muscle groups. But when I say that, some people get triggered because they feel like it's not enough. But if you look at all the body parts, all right, major, minor, etc., and then you factor in the potential of calves or abs or traps or all that kind of good stuff, or if your forearms are lagging, if you're doing more than 9 to 12 per major body part, more than 6 to 9 for minor body parts, you're going to have to put in a lot of time in the gym. Robert, any thoughts?
No, you nailed it, Steve. I got nothing else, man.
All right, thank you. Let's see. What do we got here? Ahmad Ali. Hey, man, I got some tightness in my glutes. I would have your partner give you a massage every single night. But let's stick to the question. It irritates when I lift my left leg. Any advice? I guess I would – the first thing I'd ask is it in your glute or is it related to your hip? Because a lot of bad things in life come from your hip. I've never heard anybody having tightness in their glutes. I'm not a doctor. I really don't know how to address that question. The only thing I would recommend is if you're tight, you probably want to take a nice, luxurious hot bath frequently to see if it'll loosen up. If it's a recurring problem, you need to see a doctor. Foam rolling could probably be a plan of attack as well. Any thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, tightness in the glute. I mean, it could be the glute medius, minimus, or maximus. I mean, there's 3 different glute muscles in there. If it's tightness in the glute, the one that I've had issues with is kind of like one of those little band of muscles that is beneath the glute, the piriformis, that can get really tight and cranky in people. So I've dealt with some issues from that over the years. Or it could be the glute medius, which tends to be weak in a lot of people that don't do a lot of lateral work or like side lunges and stuff like that. Check it out with that. Maybe do some foam rolling, some hip stretches. You can look up like the figure 4 hip stretch and check that out. But if it is something that is chronic and severe or like a sharp pain, go see a doctor. It's impossible for us to diagnose or even, hypothesize what it could be.
Right. Way too complex. Before we move forward, guys, we just hit the hour mark. We'll be on as long as you have questions. Just a reminder, Robert is the supplement engineer. You can check out his podcast, his Instagram, his YouTube, his website, The Supplement Engineer. If we miss your question, you can slide into his DM on Instagram at the Supplement Engineer, and Robert will be glad to help. All right, Follow 68. If I lose gains, will I lose gains? Robert, I've been trying to see what I can bring my bench press up to in the 40 rep range. Okay. So
damn.
My goal really is to get to November when I do my 100-mile attempt and be able to bench 225 by 40 as well. Just to show people, you can have strength and you can run a stupid long distance. So it's been a recurring theme. Like, people are so panicked that I'm going to lose an incredible amount of muscle mass. If anything, I feel as big as ever right now, and I'm not exactly training hard. So maybe it's that Athlete X supplement protocol. I don't know.
I mean, I think people need to remember that the human body is built to endure all kinds of shit, and it works really hard to obtain and master adaptations. It's not going to be very willing to just dispose of them and dump them at a moment's notice. This is why you can go years without riding a bicycle, and then you can just hop back on it and do it again. Once the body has achieved a certain adaptation, that's hardwired into you, both neurologically and down at the cellular level inside your muscle. It might shrink a little bit, but it's going to come back really quickly. So you're not going to lose it permanently. And so, I think the muscle loss, muscle wasting thing has been kind of overblown, but I mean, that's probably in large part the supplement industry's fault for saying, if you're not consuming BCAAs every 4.5 minutes, you're going to go catabolic, bro.
Yeah. I mean, the industry, the lifting and supplement industry and nutrition industry, especially in bodybuilding, wants to make you think you're this fragile little, Cinderella.
Yeah.
That if you don't do everything at a specific time, at a specific amount, that, you need us to tell you when to do everything. Right. It's really the opposite. If you just do the basics consistently, you don't need jack shit. That's really the biggest secret in the industry.
Correct.
And the body is not this fragile little house of glass. And I am not some genetic freak. I'm not. I was skinny fat when I was 8 years old. I looked like shit. So anyway, if you lose gains, you will, but you can get them back. Art
Vandalay.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Seinfeld reference.
Yeah, I got you. Scott McErlean. Yeah, some of the names are in Gaelic. One of the most enjoyable aspects of traveling through some of the areas of Scotland was to see Scottish Gaelic on the signs, because they'd have the English form of word, and then they'd have the Scottish Gaelic, which was pretty much real close, but it was always interesting that was still on a lot of the signs. Carlos Morris, thanks for asking my question. You're welcome, Carlos. Thank you for joining us. Jeremy O, the big O. I feel like I have a hard time connecting with my traps during shrugs. Tips for traps work. Okay, Robert, I'm going to have my say and then I'll let you jump in. The traps are an interesting muscle group because they have a limited range of motion. With a limited range of motion, inherently they have a limited time under tension or time under tension per rep. So what that means to me is when I'm programming traps, generally I go a little bit more higher reps because you have to kind of bring up the time under tension a little bit, especially for anybody that's struggling with traps. This could mean increasing set volume or increasing sets or whatever. That's why I have protocols like Power Shrug Hell, where you do the bar for 10 or 8, you put on 45s, you do it for 8 to 10, you put on another 45s, do it for 8 to 10, and then you can start moving up by 25s or whatever, but you end up going up and then pyramiding down. It's like a superset or rest pause. You can do a lot of volume in a short period of time. Don't worry about feeling the traps. I'm going to tell you my opinion, and Robert might hate me or disagree with me, but the traps are one of the strongest muscle groups in the human body. You need to overload those sons of guns. All this little time, the mind-muscle connection for traps isn't, they have to be attached to heavy-ass weight at some point with volume to get them to respond. I've never seen somebody do these light little 50-pound shrugs to infinity and gain any noteworthy traps. All the big traps I've seen are in big ass heavy lifters who just punish them. Robert, any thoughts?
Crushed it, Steve. I've got zero things to add to that. You nailed everything I was going to say, and then some. So yeah.
Like the biceps are kind of the opposite, you know. I can't. Biceps are a lighter movement. I like to focus on contraction. One of my clients, I have a client in China, Singapore. She's from Singapore, and her curls were too filled with momentum. So I'm like, slow it down. Make sure you're getting, a good contraction. You're getting some good time under tension. Don't swing your curls because you're really not doing anything other than powering it.
Try and do some heavy loaded carries too. Do some farmer's walks, Jeremy. That'll put a huge amount of time under tension on there with some heavy ass weight.
Yeah, right. Exactly. One of the things I do as well, if you can't find time to, between deadlifts and RDLs and shrugs, sometimes you find you're just loading plates on the bar ad nauseum.
Yeah.
One of the things you can do is you could do deadlifts. And then when your deadlifts are done, you could just strip a plate and start doing shrugs.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you're doing RDLs, after your RDL set is done, start doing shrugs to failure with the weight you're doing with RDLs without setting the bar down. So you already have the time under tension on your traps are a little bit pre-fatigued from your RDLs, and you can hop right into shrugs. So just a couple quick tips.
Yep.
All right. I like this question because I got my eye on this guy, and I got to figure out, I got to dive into more of his content. He came up on my feed, and I realized he's approaching 400,000 subscribers. And I'm just going to say there's a couple things that he said that kind of made me nervous, okay? He was doing a pull-up video where his arm is completely bent through the whole thing, and it's more like, I don't know if you can see it. Let me do this, okay? So he was showing a pull-up where your arm is bent and you're just kind of doing it you're just using your arm bent. And I'm like, that's a lot of stress on the biceps.
Yeah.
And no one can do that other than 5 people, right? That's a lot of body weight strength.
Yeah.
So I'm not condemning Ryan Humiston. What I'm saying is that's the first video I've seen by him, and it set off alarms. That doesn't mean 99% of what he's saying is shit. Far from it. 1% of what I say is bullshit, right? And I'll probably wake up tomorrow and learn it's bullshit and evolve my training. But when that's kind of a big thing, so I've yet to dive into everything he says. But, Robert, are you familiar with him at all?
No clue who the guy is.
He's got muscle mass, a relatively quality degree of leanness, and he's got the beard, and he looks like he's straight out of the 300,
Gotcha.
the Spartan movie. So he looks the part, and he looks very, very masculine. So he's like what Athlete X would look like if Athlete X was manly. That's just humor, kids. That's just humor. All right. It's just a joke. All right. So, but he looks the part, and you want to just follow behind him lockstep because he looks the part. But
yeah,
he's somebody you really need to dive into. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Paul DeVito. I'm going to take so much shit over that Athlete X comment. I swear to God, I will. It's just humor.
That's gonna be the next internet war. Greg, you said just got blown past for the big, hairy, ugly dude.
Yeah, you remember when guys could actually take a joke and not get offended?
Yeah, those days have been gone with common sense and everything else. That's when social media hit and SEO. That's when being sarcastic went out of style.
All right, Paul DeVito. Resistance bands are great combined with free weights. By themselves, not so much. Resistance bands are a hard road, by themselves. I think we talked about this maybe our first live video. Robert, you want to rehash that a little bit?
Yeah, it's I think bands have limited utility, but if I had to choose between using just bodyweight exercises or just resistance bands, I'm going to go with just bodyweight exercises. Combined, they can be great. Resistance bands get hardest at the point of the exercise where it's are typically already hardest on your muscles, making it that much more complicated. So when you're doing a row, the row is hardest when your arm is getting back behind the torso when you're trying to contract there. That's also the point of highest tension on the band. So that's going to, and then when your arm is fully extended, there's hardly any tension on it at all. Yet a loaded stretch is one way to induce hypertrophy into a muscle. So the bands are kind of running counter to that, what you're trying to get there. Are they worthless? No. They're usually fairly cheap. They don't take up a lot of space. They are versatile and they do serve a purpose. But I don't think I would much rather have free weights or body weight exercises if push came to shove.
Yeah, I have bands here and we use them.
Yeah, I do too.
In the home gym, I have the door bands, and I do 15 rep sets of banded cable crossovers.
Yeah,
I can get a really good feel when I use all 4 bands, but I got to stand like a mile away from the door,
right?
Just so I have that tension from from the get go. So you can use them, but they're not my favorite thing. Not my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Jim Bro, I want to give a sincere apology to both of you. I'm busy today and not going to be able to provide you with any inane questions or obscure references. I hope your busyness continues so we do not have any more inane questions or obscure references, and that's just humor. Thank you.
I'm offended. I don't get any more asinine questions and inane remarks. I'm offended.
Larry S., is pre-workout as safe as coffee? That's kind of a broad stroke there, Robert, so I'll let you have that.
It really depends on what ingredients are in the pre-workout. I mean, you could make the argument that pre-workout has artificial sweeteners, where if you're just drinking black coffee, there's nothing artificial in it. I mean, but we've got data on the artificial sweeteners being, safe for human consumption, even in fairly heavy doses. Do I think it's as safe as coffee? If the caffeine contents are, roughly equivalent, sure. And plus some pre-workouts have vasodilating ingredients that promote blood flow and circulation and stuff like that. So yeah, and that way it's helping the cardiovascular system. I don't want to say it's good for the cardiovascular system, because I guess you could consider that a health claim. It's not harming that. If you start having some of the weird ingredients, the really harsh stimulants like DMAA, DMHA, amp citrate, which we really don't have any quality human data on, I would not say in that case pre-workouts are as safe as coffee. Plus, you also have to run the risk of getting a quality pre-workout from a company, because we've seen time and time again there are these shitbag companies in the industry that it's either them or it's their contract manufacturers that are not testing the products, and they're lacing them with all kinds of illicit, illegal compounds that could be hazardous, toxic when consumed in copious amounts. So in that instance, it really depends on a case-by-case basis and what the ingredients are in it that you're looking at. If you have a specific question, shoot me an email or a message, and I can tell you my thoughts on that specific product.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add to that is when it comes to supplements, and Robert, I'd like your opinion on this generic statement. And first, I'd like to know if you're still awake, because I don't know if you didn't get enough sleep last night.
No, I'm good. I got a 400 milligram caffeine pre-workout that I'm about halfway through. So yeah, I'm good to go.
All right. So when it comes to supplements, I'm going to say you're better off spending money on a more premium product from a more reputable company that actually puts time and effort, been in the industry for a while. Maybe the flavor is a little bit better. Would you agree or disagree, Robert?
Absolutely. I would say most of the time, unless it's like one of those trim fast keto things that we were just talking about, which are overpriced, or Vince Del Monte's shit can supplement. Most of the time when you're dealing with supplement companies, you pay for what you get. So those little BOGO pre-workouts that you always see advertised and you get spammed in your inbox for, those are prop blended, pixie dusted, underdosed, heaping, steaming piles of dog shit as far as a pre-workout. And there's a good chance they might have some other compounds in there that you would rather not have. So yeah, you get what you pay for. Always look for a transparently dosed product if possible.
I will tell you, I haven't spent a lot of time in the industry. When you see a BOGO or buy one, get one half off or something like that, either it's a shit product that doesn't sell that they're trying to dump, or it's bodybuilding.com whoring out a brand and devaluing the brand just so they can bring in bottom line. Like big players like bodybuilding.com and Walmart and Amazon and stuff like that. Having your brand on there seems like a wonderful thing.
Yep.
But these companies are great at destroying the value of a brand. If you have a really good product, and all of a sudden bodybuilding.com wants to do a BOGO and slice you to bits and buy your product for nothing, you know, I don't know why I decided to go on that down that rabbit trail, but when you support companies like that, you know, they're really destroyers of brands, and you know, especially in the supplement industry. But outside of bodybuilding.com and places like that that'll do a BOGO and buy one get one half off, if you see that on a site with a pre-workout or whatever the supplement is, usually it's something that doesn't sell at all and they're trying to get it out of stock.
Correct.
Usually. That's a generalization.
Yeah.
Ben on Adventures, today is meal prep day. Ben, it's probably a good idea to do it on Friday when you got a lot of energy. Stan says mini disc. Not sure what that means. Maybe you can clarify.
I think that was from the DVD Blu-ray progression of stuff.
Yeah, I got you. Tyler, howdy from Georgia. Hope you guys are doing well. How's it going, Tyler? Hope you're got some good stuff going on this weekend. HD DVD came out same time as Blu-ray. So
yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that might be it. Wild Turkey 108 is my go-to bourbon. Never tried it.
I haven't. I've heard good things though.
The basic Wild Turkey scares me, but I've never tried any of their more quality products. All right, here we go. What do we got here? Jeremy O. How would you structure a 5-day plan to hit everything twice? How would I do it? I would do it on a rotating A-B type of plan where you're doing A-B, 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 A-B. I'd have an A-B split. You can slice it however you want. Upper, lower, I like to do legs and back on the A split and chest, shoulders, and arms on the B split. Doesn't really matter. But what I would do is I like to do 2 chest and shoulder workout variations and 2 leg and back workout variations and rotate. So you do A, B, C, D, and you'd keep rotating between those over the course of a 5-day plan. What you got here is you got 2 variables. You're trying to hit everything twice over the course of 5 days, which makes the math interdesting, okay? So you got to get a little bit creative. That's what I would do. Robert, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just to give them a separate option, because I like what you do, and that legs and back thing. I mean, that's one of the workout structures that I've always liked. But man, it can be, as you start getting stronger, it turns into a ball buster of a workout compared to the previous day, which is all of the other muscles. Anyway, another way you could organize it is to do legs push pull, then have an off day, and then do lower upper.
Right.
So structure your second thing. So you're hitting everything twice. Your upper body day, that second upper body day could be more like a pump day. Or you could even structure it, I guess, do upper, lower, rest day, pull, push, legs. And you could do it that way too. To where your first upper and lower days are your heavier days, and then like the back 3 days, the push, pull, legs is more of like your pump work and your higher rep stuff, like in the 10 to 20 rep range. And your first couple of days in the week are like 6 to 10.
This got my juices going a little bit because I'm thinking about this. Like, you got the 3 major lifts, all right? Mm-hmm. You got the bench and the squat and the deadlift. And then also have the military press. But, I'm thinking you could do a heavier, when I say heavier, more compound focused movements for 3 days. Let's say you do squat on Monday. Let's say you attack chest and shoulders, bench and military press on Tuesday, maybe squats on Wednesday, and some stuff to back it up. And then take a day off and then come in the next 2 days and maybe do more lighter machines, isolation stuff. The key is, though, going to be planning your rest days because, you need to be fresh going into whatever is starting the cycle again on the Monday. All right, Robert, I'm going to let you lead the dance with this one. I'm going to share my opinion. 100 grams of protein, sufficient enough for an adult male trying to build muscle.
Not even close, unless you're, a 98-pound adult male. I mean, that's going to be woefully insufficient.
Yeah, I mean, the gentleman Jim Bro that's on here saying he didn't want any inane questions is actually a client of mine. And I busted his balls this week because he had like 2 days of 110 grams and 1 day of 94 grams. I'm constantly busting his nuts because he's not eating enough protein, and he trains hard. The Mike Mentzer guys and the fringe guys that try to seek extremes, low protein, high protein, there's no good reason at all not to stay within reasonable guidelines and reasonable levels. None at all. Don't seek fringe stuff. Don't seek, opposite ends of the spectrum. Just be reasonable.
Yeah.
If you're struggling to get into your protein, for the love of God, take in a shake, have a Greek yogurt, eat a couple pieces of string cheese, something like that. I tell people if they're like 5'10", my clients are around 5'10", I say aim for 150 grams. If they're shorter, 5'4", 5'5", 5'6", 130 is kind of the minimum for them. But then pretty much every male, I tell them, look, just gird up your big testicles and eat 150 grams of protein a day at least. And
1 gram per pound. Just keep it simple. If you weigh 150 pounds, have 150 grams of protein. 170 pounds, have 170 grams of protein. Just keep it simple that way.
Right. And when people start going below 150, that's kind of like my flinch zone. And when they're below 130, I want to slap them. Justin, are bro splits optimal for hypertrophy? Justin, we covered this earlier. And I'd ask you to rewind because we don't want to, dive into this and repeat ourselves over and over again. But frequency training focuses on one variable, and that's frequency. There are many more variables. I will say 99% of the successful lifters I've met in my life use bro splits, and that triggers people. But it's reality. It's absolutely reality. That's changing nowadays because more and more people are doing upper lowers and stuff like that. But optimal applied over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, it's not going to matter as much as long as you are using a good exercise selection, a reasonable amount of volume, progressive overload, your diet's consistent, and you are in attack mode. Robert, anything to add?
Nope. You summed it up our previous discussion swimmingly, Steve.
Get a lot stronger than you are now. Nigel, apparently it was on Shark Tank and they bought it hook, line, and sinker. I guess we're talking about the keto product. I will say that if I was on Shark Tank, I would probably buy it too, because Shark Tank is a business program, and they are looking to make money. And if you have a point of differentiation in the keto market that can potentially make you a lot of money, they don't care about results. They care about making money. Anything to add, Robert?
No, I mean, they're smart for business investors. They see that the common person is going to buy up anything that's labeled as quick weight loss, rapid weight loss, easy fat loss, anything like that. So they're just making a smart business move. It's not a voucher saying it's a quality product or anything like that. It's a scam.
It's $1 billion industry. And if you have anything that has a strong point of differentiation, I would probably buy it as well.
Yeah.
Chris, can you recommend a multivitamin brand, because there's a lot and it's confusing? I believe Chris is from the Philippines. So, Robert, what are your recommended brands?
The one that I always lean to, the first one, is either Animal Pack or Controlled Labs Orange Triad, and both of those are relatively easy to find, I believe.
It's been a while since I've been at Tiger Fitness. Do you know if MTS Nutrition ever released their big pack thing?
I know MTS has a regular multivitamin. Let me pull it up. It's their Machine Multi.
Yeah, but when I was there, they were talking about he was talking about releasing some kind of an alternative to like the Animal Pack. I'm not sure if that ever came to fruition or
I
not.
don't think I ever saw it. But I mean, the machine multi, it uses my litmus test for multivitamins is checking out like the vitamin B12 and the magnesium forms, and they've got vitamin B12 as the cyanocobalamin, which is the less bioavailable form, and magnesium oxide and zinc oxide. Both of those, anytime you see an oxide form of a mineral, it's generally the lowest bioavailability, i.e., cheapest one around to
Got it.
use. Yeah, I'm not super impressed with their regular pill multivitamin. I'm trying to see if their powder multi is any better. No, I would stick with
Orange
Control Labs or the Animal Pack one.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Ben on Adventures. Oh, here we go. I'm not being dismissive, Ben. This is just one of my least favorite questions in the lifting world. Thoughts on Bulgarian? My honest thoughts, Ben, and this is not directed at you, it's directed at anybody. Most people don't need Bulgarian. Most people are not in the same league as Bulgarian. Most people are playing T-ball, and Bulgarian is Randy Johnson in the bottom of the ninth in the World Series, tossing 98-mile-an-hour fastballs your way, and you got to hit that shit. So that's my thoughts on Bulgarian. You got to go from T-ball to the major leagues before you even consider Bulgarian. Robert, any thoughts?
Yeah, it is a super advanced method that the average person doesn't need and probably will get crippled. Not actually crippled, but they will be in such pain and miserable muscle soreness that they won't survive the program. It's just like somebody that's trying to jump onto like one of those higher volume Shako routines that's not really prepped for it. It's going to floor you.
If I excuse me, too much talking and dog hair. If I was a coach and I had to put 100 athletes through the grinder to spit out 10, that'd be a good program for it. That I could tell you before you get into a program like that, you really need a lot of time with the iron. Like for over maybe 2 years, I did frequency training, daily maxes with squats and bench and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would do is I would see how I felt that day, and I would do a single, double, triple, or quad or whatever based on how I felt that day. But that was after, like 28 years of training.
Yeah.
And still, physically, it was very dangerous. Physically, it was very dangerous. And it has a potential. Can the reward be there? Yes. Is the risk increased? Yes. That's why you got to learn to get your at-bats in at a major league level before you even consider that.
Correct.
Scott McErling, internet ads. If it has a young, attractive woman with her backside pointing to me and a heaving chest, I will admire the picture for a moment and ignore the snake oil supplement she's selling. Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. If somebody's resorting to, tits and ass to sell something, that's their main selling point. Like you can use that to sell balding cream or whatever. I mean, that's not a point of differentiation.
Yeah.
We can all appreciate, though, the eye candy. Ben on Adventure. Sir Ian Holm from Alien and Lord of the Rings passed away. He was 88. I saw that this morning. It was sad to see that, but did happen. So you're not the only one that noticed that. Tyler, hit the dumbbells hard. And for volume day, like you advised, Big Hairy Ugly Dude, one of the best pumps from push day I've ever had, hands down. Thanks for the advice. I'm glad it helped. Get some sleep, and you guys have a great weekend. Day off with AMRAP push-ups. Need to get minimum 60 on 2 minutes. That's a pretty good mark, but it's doable. I think I did that in the military. I think I got like 72 or something like that. So just stay at it. Guards, XBL. For frequency volume example, if I do 15 to 18 sets on chest on Monday, should I be able to do another 15 to 18 sets on Thursday? If you're doing a hard 15 to 18 sets on Monday and it's quality volume, look, just because you can do something doesn't mean it's the best way. Okay. I can slap a pit bull with my testicles, but it's not the most efficient way of getting its attention. Okay. I can slap my dick in my wife's face, and it's a good way to get her attention, but it's not the best way to get her attention. Just because, I don't know, Robert, we've been going for two. All right. Just because you can do something doesn't mean it's the best way. Is it possible? Yeah, if you're young and got a lot of recovery. But I'm going to tell you, it's going to beat the living shit out of your body. I did a push-pull legs when I was 20. I dove into that. Beat the living shit. I could do that for like 4 months. Beat the living shit out of my body. It beat the living shit out of my body. If that is all quality work, you can do it, but probably not for very long. Robert, any thoughts on slapping your wife in the face with a penis?
That made my morning. Thank you, Steve.
Right. Sorry,
Thank you.
guys. Sometimes
Thank you, sir. That's a shit ton of volume, even by like high volume standards. That's 30 to 36 sets a week. I don't think you really, unless you were like some super like genetic outlier or like super low responder to training, you shouldn't need that much volume. If you can do it, that's great. But I mean, what's the quality of that 18th set on Monday for chest? I mean, are you, by this point, is that like your 16th time trying to go for like a pec deck or a cable crossover or something? If you're really pushing hard, can you really get in 15 hard, high quality sets on a single muscle group and then repeat that 3 days later? I'm inclined to think not, unless you got like superhuman recovery or, you got some extra special sports supplements coursing through your veins.
The first thing I want to know when I get a question like this is, what are your strength levels on your main lifts? Okay. Because, and I hate to generalize, but this is the case most often. When somebody is trying to interject volume into combine volume and frequency, most times they're pretty weak, and they're able to do that a lot easier. So invariably, when we talk about this stuff, somebody's going to drop a comment saying, I can do that. Well, yes, you can do that for a short period of time if you're reasonably strong. But if you're not strong at all and you're not pushing for progression, you probably can do that because you're using a lot of junk volume. So I would have to know more information. I'd really like to know your strength levels on your major lifts. That would help, because more than you need 30 plus sets for chest, you need 12 to 15 set a week where you're getting the most out of your barbell and dumbbell and dips and all that kind of good stuff. So I hope that helps.
Hey, Steve, before you go to that one, there's the most recent comment that popped up at the bottom of the feed from Beef Lewis says, am I the only person being skipped? Go ahead and reiterate your spiel about skipped questions.
Yeah, anybody that thinks they're being skipped, it is not us. It is YouTube, and it happens every week. So if you feel you're being skipped, please post up your question. It's a glitch. There's nothing we can do about it. It happens on every content provider's live videos. I get emails about it every week telling me I'm losing money, I'm losing viewers. There's nothing I can do. Just keep posting up your question, and we will get to it. Where are we?
Ben on Adventures said he switched to sumo deadlifts.
It feels great. I'm glad, Ben. It's a trickier exercise. I feel at the top when you're trying to lock out that a sumo deadlift is a little bit more imbalanced naturally. But I think there's a lot of value in spending a lot of time with both. So, Sturgios Savas, how's that? Is it really a problem if I don't rotate exercises on A/B training split, like I do the same high quality exercises 2 times a week and I'm progressing? Is there really a reason to rotate? All right. So what this gentleman is saying is, do I need to rotate exercises? Can I just do bench, military press twice a week, squats, deadlifts twice a week? That is a question that is very exercise dependent. I do not want people deadlifting generally twice a week. Can you squat twice a week? Can you bench twice a week? Yes. It depends on your goals. Is it the best for hypertrophy? I like exercise variation for a number of reasons. Different stimulus feels different stresses on the muscle and joints. In the long run, I don't feel it's the best for hypertrophy. In the short run, is it doable? Absolutely. You can build a lot of strength on it. Robert, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's if he wants to keep the same exercises, like if he's getting a good training stimulus with it, like in the muscle belly, and it's not aggravating his joints, then that's fine. I would say you can do that twice a week, but experiment with some different rep ranges. So if you're going hard and heavy early in the week, working in like the 6 to 8 rep range, use those same exercises again later in the week if you want to, but explore out into like the 10 to 20 rep range so you can get the benefits of training across a broad spectrum of rep ranges. Me personally, I like a little bit of variety in my training. I don't want to do 36 different exercises like P90X or something, but at the same time, I don't want to be doing just the same 4, day in and day out. So there's a happy medium in between that. But if you like, just a basic core set of like 6 or 8 exercises, that's fine. But make sure to work in some different rep ranges while you're doing those same exercises.
Yeah, I would agree. When I have people squatting twice a week, if I have to program in 5x5 twice a week, I would rather stick a sharp pick in my eye or something. I mean, I find value in variation, and I find we're able to learn a lot more about ourselves in the gym when we do variation.
Correct.
Upset on squats is going to feel a lot different than 5, and so on and so forth.
Right.
But really, as long as your body is feeling okay and you're using compounds and progressing, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Ben. Logan, thoughts on companies that still use DMAA and DMHA?
Well, both of those stimulants have been banned. I would be very suspect of any company that is claiming to use them in their product, considering that it's damn near impossible to actually get authenticated raws of that from China. So they might list it as DMAA or DMHA on the label, but the fact that the chance of those actually being that the chemicals that are in the pre-workout, it's slim to none. There's almost no DMAA or DMHA actually being produced anymore. It's going to be some other compound or some other alkaloid that they're just labeling as DMAA, but if you look at it chemically, and you ran it through a third-party testing or like a mass spectrometer or something, there's no way.
Robert, are any of these companies doing the old pro-hormone trick where they're attaching molecule X to like DMAA, changing its chemical formula to try to slide under the radar?
That would probably be more in like the SARMs realm where they're doing that. I mean, a lot of the times what they're doing with the DMAA and DMHA is they're listing it, or what they used to do with DMAA at least, was they would list it as geranium oil extract or geranium leaf extract, because that's one of the few plants that contains DMAA in very, very like minute, eensy-weensy, teensy-beensy little amounts. DMHA, they have different varieties of it. So there's like the harder hitting 2-amino-5 version of DMHA, and then there's the 2-amino-6 version. They'll list it as Juglans regia, walnut leaf extract, or walnut bark extract. I'd be very wary of any products that are using those ingredients or openly labeling DMAA or DMHA. It's not going to be those actual compounds. Those stimulants have gone the way of the dinosaurs.
Thanks, Robert. Philo, Biotest is a company I trust, right or wrong. I believe Biotest is T Nation's brand, is it not?
It is. I mean, it might be quality stuff, but it is so fucking expensive and overpriced. It's not worth my money. And the way, if you read some of their articles and the way they posit some of their supplements, you would think it's God's gift to ultimate body recomposition, lose fat, build muscle stuff. It's so overhyped and overblown. And a lot of the dosing on some of the stuff that I've seen, especially like on their nootropics, I'm not a real big fan of.
I will say I've been in the industry so long that I want to weigh in on just my time in the industry and Biotest. For reference, there was one point where I went to New York and did video work with Stu Yellen. Stu Yellen was, I believe, a WNBF pro that was a moderator or the huge name on T Nation. He was a sponsored athlete. I went to his apartment in Brooklyn, got to pet his dog, all that kind of stuff. And he had supplies and supplies of the Biotest stuff. And, T Nation is kind of dead nowadays. I I've never, outside of Stu Yellen, I've never met an athlete that uses it. That doesn't say you can't trust them, okay? But it kind of makes me nervous that, when you've been in an industry for a very long time and you have a powerhouse the size of T Nation, that you don't have people fanatical about a supplement line. When you meet people, like when I meet people, they're all like, man, I love MTS or I love Optimum or whatever. I've never met a guy that says I'm a huge Biotest fan. So are they quality? Man, I don't know. I've been out of their loop for so long. I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, it's overpriced, overhyped, and I'm not super nuts about some of their formulations. There are much better options on the market for a much lower price.
Give these guys a thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate it. Ben, lately I've been doing upper, lower, accessories, lower, upper. I think I might switch back to 5-time full body. 5 times a week full body can be fun, when you need a little bit of a change. So just have fun with it and try to put in some exercise variation. Jeremy, thanks for your time each week and answering my questions. We appreciate each and every one of you guys following us. So thank you. Is 2 grams of protein per pound okay? Robert?
Yeah, I mean, they've done studies with giving people between like 3.2 to 4 grams per kilogram of body weight, which is around 2 grams of protein per pound a day. Yes, it's okay, provided that your kidneys are functioning just fine. If you have a bad kidney or down to 1 kidney, I wouldn't recommend it. But by then, that point, you're probably getting specialized dietary advice from your doctor and RD anyway. Yeah, it's fine. Are you going to get, drastically superior muscle growth compared to just eating 1 or 1.5 grams of protein per day? No. But if you enjoy it and it helps keep you full, go for it.
The one thing I'll add to this discussion, a lot of my male clients, probably maintain at 2,200 to 2,500 calories a day. Let's say 2,300 to 2,500.
Yeah.
And when you are looking at that in context, if that's you, you're looking at half your calories, nearly half your daily calories from protein. I don't have a problem with that as long as you're getting in an appropriate amount of fat content, in your diet. Yeah. That you're not under eating fat or avoiding fat to the point where it's going to impact your health.
Right. And if they're eating things like red meat or fatty fish, then they would probably be getting enough fat just through that without having to add more on that. But if you're eating just like turkey breast and chicken breast or tilapia, then you're going to need to add fat somewhere.
Just to let you know, guys, we got this is a last call for questions. We got some in the queue, but I'm going to do a last call now. If you want to get your question answered, get it in now. When we run out, we run out.
Yeah, Steve, highlight Saran. It's 1144. It's near the bottom. It says it's been skipped twice.
I've been skipped twice. Against Saran, we're not skipping your question. Please post it up now. We're not skipping it. That's the first message I've seen by you. So I just want to encourage your question. Beef says he's the only person being skipped. No, you're not. We're not skipping you again. It's just like this. It's just the way YouTube is. So get your questions in, guys, because we're about to pull the parachute. If we do miss your questions, feel free to head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman, at Ben the Barman. Slide in my DM. I answer every question. I get hammered on my inbox, so give me sometimes up to a week, but I will get to it. Excuse me. Suggestion to those viewing the chat, if you aren't doing it, be sure to change to live chat instead of top chat. I didn't even know there was such a thing. Excuse me. All right. If I do box squats to depth, is it identical to regular squatting, touch, and go? I got some thoughts on this, Robert. Before I get into it, do you have anything you'd like to add to that question?
I wouldn't say it's identical. No, the trajectory you're doing with a box squat is going to put your body in a different position because you tend to go backwards more, whereas regular squatting, it's more of like an up and down thing. Box squatting, you're sitting back into something. The force distribution is going to be different in the body. I wouldn't say it's at all the same thing or identical. No, it has its own benefits, but it's not the same thing as regular squatting.
You touch on a very important point and something I tell everybody about when it comes to box squatting. When you're squatting, you aren't really thinking about putting your butt down onto something. When you do a box squat, people tend to be more hips back. It changes the weight distribution, like Robert says. It changes the mechanics of a squat. Uh, Even if you're a super disciplined squatter, it will change the mechanics of the squat to a small degree. I find that because of this, some lifters have a tendency to pick up things like knee tendonitis because they are putting more stress and strain. They're changing their form. They're going more hips back and butt down. So you have to really, really be careful and really pay attention. And realize your form on squats is going to be box squats is going to be a little bit different than regular squats. So just know that going in. Can box squats help your regular squat? Yes. Can they help your deadlift? Yes. Are they a miracle cure? Well, sometimes in this industry, we swing from the nuts of guys like Ripito and Louis Simmons. Things like this certainly have their place, and some of the best people in the world use them. But just know that they are different. Your form is going to be different. The weight distribution is going to be different. So just be careful. And if you start to experience anything like knee tendonitis, pull back. I'm an experienced squatter. When I move over to box squats, invariably, it's easy for me. It had been easy for me to pick up knee tendonitis until I mastered the box squat. So there are some nuances and differences. All right, Michael G. Any chance of the part 3 or 4 program, the Massive Iron Way? Yes, there is a chance. I started a series on how I program, and I got the first 2 parts in. And honestly, I got derailed a little bit. Whenever I do a series on, each video, the deeper into the series I get, the fewer and fewer people actually watch the videos. So I think what I'm thinking about doing is just putting together a longer video and doing it that way. That way, people will get all the information in one video. Thanks, Ben. Have a good weekend. What's your recommended for total number of sets per week per body part? Guards, I want you to go back in time a couple days. I put together a video about junk volume. It covers that. Just to quickly recap, if you look at your major body parts, chest, shoulders, back, legs, quads, and then your minor body parts, and I say minor, but hamstrings are not minor, but in programming context, you don't do 15 sets per week for hamstrings generally. Biceps, triceps, traps, abs, calves, hamstrings, all that kind of good stuff. If you're doing more than 9 to 12 sets per major body part and 6 to 9 per minor body part, you'll have to live in the gym 5 days a week, probably 22 to 25 sets per body part. So for major body parts, 9 to 12, minor body parts, 6 to 9. Mileage may vary. Go back and watch my video on junk volume. Philo, thanks, guys, for the information. A fool and his money easily parted. I've parted with my money many, many times over impulse purchases.
Most people have.
Yeah. John Nurse, I've never been skipped. I just show up and have no questions.
Well, thanks for showing up, John.
Yeah, we appreciate everyone. Saran, I'm a novice. Body weight 68 kilograms. SBD squats, bench, deadlifts 170, 130. Should I run your 5-3-1 program or 5-5 program? If it's 5-3-1, how can I buy it now as it's unavailable? It still exists. It's out there. All you have to do is search Steve Shaw 5-3-1. I believe I might even have it in my store at Super Living Today for $1.99. If you can't find it, head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman, and I will find it for you. I'm looking at your lifts and I'm processing your weight. Robert, what is 68 times 2.2? That's 136 with 1/5. That's like 150 pounds. Okay.
Yeah, 149.6.
All right. Not bad for an old math nerd.
Yep.
Squat, you're squatting 225. Deadlifting, you're close to 300. And bench, you're 170-ish, whatever. I wouldn't consider you a novice. I'd consider you a late beginner. A novice is somebody still learning to ride the tricycle. You're on two wheels right now. So what program should you run? Doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't. They're both good programs. You've established the ability to build strength beyond the beginner levels. So it won't really matter, just being honest with you. I would choose a program that is sexiest to you and run like a scalded dog. Robert, we're almost done. Justin E, when I do conventional deadlifts with a 10 millimeter belt, I feel like I have trouble getting in position due to the belt getting in the way. I place the belt around the center of my belly button. We're talking about a deadlift. Justin, the first thing the question I would have for you is, what's your body weight? Generally, and I don't know if this is a case, so this would kind of help us. Are you a bigger boy? Because getting in a position can sometimes be a struggle for a bigger, beefier, sexier man critter. So if you're not a bigger boy, I'd like to see you trying to get into position. So if you could send me a video, that would be help. Any thoughts on that, Robert?
I have never used a belt before, so no, I have nothing to add there.
All right. Is there a position where a belt could be positioned too high where the belt won't serve its intended purpose? I've seen some people on deadlifts bring it pretty high. I've competed with guys like the Lillibridges who jack that up there. I think it's personal preference. If you can't get in a position, I would definitely adjust the belt position. But again, I'm curious about your body weight, and I'd like to see a video because that would help me more than anything. All right, last question. I always work out fasted. If not, I often get diarrhea. I've been checked. GI system is fine. Primary doctor says it's okay. Anyone else with this? Robert, have you run into this at all?
No. If anything, and I've always been a person that likes to train on an empty stomach. Whether I was technically fasted according to like insulin levels and stuff, I mean that's here nor there. But especially going back to like Taekwondo, when we were going for like 90 minutes to an hour or to 2 hours of like high intensity, lots of punch and kick combinations, I never liked anything in my system. I always felt nauseous when I did. I've never gotten diarrhea from it. But if you're finding something then maybe just like sip on some aminos or some carbs intra workout if you're doing an extensively long workout. And those are a little bit easier on the GI system. Also, I guess consider if you're taking a lot of caffeine in your pre-workout, that is going to have a laxative effect. It can irritate the stomach lining, especially if you're fasted. So give that a consideration. But if you enjoy working out fasted, that's fine. And if it's not hindering your performance, then rock on.
The only thing, there's a couple questions I have, and it's probably too much for us to dive into here, but if you typically work out fasted and then you're playing around with eating more food or eating pre-workout, that could have a change. That small change alone could cause an issue. So I would, if that's the case, that might be one of the causes. Sometimes smaller changes in diet doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but it could be. The pre-workout issue as well. I've never had an issue working out fasted. I worked out fasted for a very long time. The body adapts well. All I can say is all we can play with is the variables that we are aware of. And the body is a very complex, thing. And if that's the case, the only thing I might play around with is eating a little bit earlier in the day. Right. So if you really find your energy is lacking from a fasted workout, and if you're eating an hour and a half before workout, maybe try 3 hours and see if that makes any difference.
Yeah. Watch your fat intake too, especially with that pre-workout meal. That might be greasing the tracks a little bit too.
Greasing the old tracks. Saran, I haven't bought 531 program yet, but I took a look at your 5x5 and I felt like it had less volume than you recommend in your junk volume video. It could be. I mean, I make a myriad of programs for preferences. You can always add volume to a program like that. Just keep that in mind. And for anybody that wants a program, you can head over to my website, which is right above my fat noggin. and I will modify a program for you. I will do a custom workout. So just keep that in mind. But Saran, the only thing I could say is you can always add volume to a 5x5. The reason why I don't rush in to add a lot of volume to a 5x5 is because once you're getting strong and you're doing 5 sets of 5 on squats or 5 sets of anything with heavy weight, it can get really tedious really quickly for me.
Yeah, and one other thing to consider is that what is the goal of the program? Is it more of a powerlifting program or is it a hypertrophy program? Because the volumes for each of those two programs is going to be different. Or if you're doing a hybrid, like a power building program, like most of your programs are, Steve, the volume is going to fall somewhere in between because you're not going to do the same amount of sets per week if your goal is hypertrophy versus if it's strength.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing, if you look at some of these classic 5x5 programs, you're looking at least 10 sets of squats and 10, sometimes, Ripito, 7.5 sets per week of military press or bench press. You already got a lot of volume in there already, set volume.
Right.
You might not have the rep volume. So if you're doing like 5x5 twice a week on squats, you might only have room for another leg exercise, to squeeze in there, like on a middle day, like whatever your leg exercise is. So that's generally why you might not have the rep volume, but you might already have the set volume. So just keep that in mind. Justin is 200 pounds and he's 5'8", and he has problems getting into position. Justin, the only thing I can say is I'd like to see a video of you squatting with and without a belt just to see what's going on. So if you can make that happen, I would appreciate it. 5068, back and buys, chest and tries, hams and thighs. No lies, guy. Give me some size. All right, that is a man after Ric Flair's heart. All right, guys, appreciate you watching. Me and Robert are here every Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern. Please follow Robert, the Supplement Engineer, on YouTube. Follow his podcast. Follow his Instagram. And head over to my website, Above My Big Fat Noggin. If you want a supplement assessment by Robert, you will get no better supplement assessment in the industry. I guarantee it. And just on an end, Beef Lewis says hi from Montana. If your name is Beef Lewis and you live in Montana, you are getting all the Montana pussy. All right, have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you next Friday.
Bye, Steve. Thanks, guys.
Bye.